In the winter time, you'll often hear anglers say, oh, I've had to scale right down today to be able to get bites. What does that actually mean? It means that they've had to, more often than not, use a lighter hook length and a smaller hook to be able to get some bites. But we all know every venue's different, what you're fishing for, how many bites you're going to get. So how do you go about getting your setup right to be able to maximise the bites you can get throughout those autumn, winter months? So I'm going to start off with what I think is the most important part. It's not really riggy, it's more to do with how the fish go out of my peg once I've hooked them. So when I get a bite, when I strike, what I'm after is everything sort of staying there, and then the fish gradually, slowly come out of my peg. I think that part is so important. So again, relating it to the summertime, because I always think that's the best way of understanding it. The water's dead coloured, the fish are competing, they're hungry. So inspecting your bait, one, they're very active, and more often than not, they're just competing for the bait and they can't see a lot. But also, because they're competing, when one gets hooked, it's almost like, well, I'm glad he's gone because it's more bait that I can eat. So because they're in that frame of mind and they're swimming around and just grabbing at everything, they're very active. So they're obviously fighting a little bit for one. The fact that they're competing for the bait, they're not really inspecting the rig, so you can use a slightly stronger main line, a bigger hook. They're not overly fussy. And again, with your elastic, when you hook one and one's gone, they're not really that spooky. So you can sort of use quite beefed up tackle in the summer months, even when you're fishing for what I would say are not overly big fish. It's just you're catching lots of them, so you can get away with sort of bigger hooks, stronger elastics, and sort of get on with the job a little bit. But come the winter time, say the water now, rather than it being really coloured, their visibility is so much more because the colour of the water's dropped out. They're nowhere near as active, so they're sort of milling around, and they're just very on edge. So when they feed, they're a lot more gentle, but also say they can see so much more. How many times have we all been sort of bream skimmer fishing where you go out, they finally arrived, you catch one, perfect, catch another one, this is brilliant, I'm going to catch a massive weight today, only to hook one, it comes off in your peg, and you're like, oh no, come back in, rebait up, go in, don't get a bite. Nah, my hook bait must have come off, it was so good. No, the hook bait's still on. Everything is just spooked out of your peg because you've lost that fish. And that's why I'm going to start with our setup, again, of how the fish exit the peg, which I think is so important. So when it comes to your elastic choice, and whether you use a long kit or a short kit, very much venue dependent, what you're fishing for. But the bit that I would love you to be able to concentrate on is when that float goes and you strike, is it, that's a no-no, or is it, that's absolutely beautiful, because that is going to prolong your peg more than anything else that I'm going to tell you about. It's how the fish exits the peg. And then when it comes to using, would I like to use a long kit or a short kit? Personal preference, I'd much rather use a short kit if I could. The reason being is a lot of the time I'm going to have a little pot on the end of my pole, and again, when it's windy, you need to sometimes be able to hold your float really still. So using a short kit stiffens my pole up, makes it less movement in the wind. It's a lot easier to be able to control my rig. That's why I'd much rather use a short kit. Also, when the fish come up, they're a lot closer to me. But if I'm going to a venue and they're big fish, again, even on a canalised lake, you can be fishing for some great big carp sometimes, then I'd much rather use that long kit, because what I don't want to do is hook one. Again, I want that elastic on the lighter side, so there's not as much retraction in it. But then when I hook one, the elastic's not working as much because it's very soft, only for it to be like, oh, there's nothing in the elastic, and I get broke. When you're using a long kit, the biggest single thing is you've just got more elastic in it. So then when it's swimming off, you've got more elastic to allow for that fish, and now it's turned back round. So that's the biggest thing really, long kit, short kit. Elastic choice, what I will say though, is when you've got a long kit, you've got a much, say that longer length of elastic. So just say you was using a number 10 elastic in your long kit, when you drop down to a short kit, you're going to need to go lighter, so maybe to a number 8. Because you've got that shorter length of elastic, it needs to be a bit more on the lighter side. Then the next thing to think about, before we talk about main lines and hooks, is the flow. That's your indication of being able to see that's a bite, fish is on. So the two floats that I've got here, when I put them up next to each other, you'd probably be able to think, don't look an awful lot of difference, but there is a massive, massive difference. So the one on your right hand side is a 1.7 mil hollow bristle float, whereas the one on your left hand side is a 1.5 mil solid bristle float, and that's really, really important. I think when it comes to the winter time, we're all if I use the thinnest bristle possible, I'm going to be able to get more bites on it, and that is true to an extent, but you need to be able to see the flow. A lot of the time, you know, it's broken light, and I want my float dotted down because that way I can see like any little indications that are on my float. The biggest thing with a hollow compared to a solid is with a hollow bristle, there's buoyancy in the tip. So as they take the bait in, they can feel a bit of resistance and they can eject your bait. And the bites are really hard to distinguish. Is it a bite? Is it a liner? Is it just a little movement on my flow? Whereas with a solid bristle, it just goes and melts away because there's less resistance because it's solid plastic. It just melts away, and it's so much easier to be able to read what is a bite and what isn't a bite. But the biggest thing is I can actually see it. It's no good having a float that you can't see, and I'm sure we've all been down that road before. They all look nice at home until you're like trying to wipe my eyeballs off to be able to see it. So pick a bristle that you can actually see. And then lastly, the mainline hook length and hook choice. Again, biggest thing, summertime, they're pulling, they're active. In the wintertime, they're just plodding around. So you haven't got that strain, that continuous strain on your mainline, so you can drop down. So I feel like 015 mainline is absolutely perfect. But again, if you was going somewhere and there was some big fish, then yes, definitely use 017 mainline. Mainline's important, but I think the real important part of your rig is the bottom part of your rig, because as your bait's falling through, that's what they can see, that's what they're looking at, that's what they're spotting, is that last little bit. So think carefully about where do I want my dropper, depending on how deep it is. You're allowing the fish more time to be able to spot that bait in the clear water, turn down and pick it up. You just want it to be as natural as possible. So picking your hook length choice depends on what you're fishing for and how hard they pull, but you want to go the lightest you can get away with, but not overly light. As a rule, when I'm fishing for F1s and carp throughout the winter months, I won't fish any lighter than 010. So 010 for me is sort of my limit. I don't want to go any lighter than that because I don't want to hook a big fish only for it to get broke. In the past, I've tried really light 06, 08. I don't really think it matters when you get that much below 010. It's probably a little bit different when you're fishing for silverfish, but F1s and carp, for me, 010 is absolutely perfect. And then the last bit is the actual hook choice. So again, it depends on what you're fishing for. How hard do they pull? The more carp, the more you want a thicker wire hook, but I think you want a small hook. And then the more F1s it is, the lighter wire hook. I think the size of your hook as well, size of it and the thickness in the wire make the biggest difference. So if I'm fishing with a bit of 6mm meat, a 4mm expander, I can easily use a 16 because my whole hook is in the bait. Whereas if I'm using a fluoro pinky or two fluoro pinkies or a single maggot and a fluoro pinky, I can use a little 20 or a little 18 because the whole hook is exposed. So hopefully there's a few little bits there to get it, you know, suitable for where you go. I definitely don't think it's a one setup fixes all, but just think about those little bits of where you're going. But say the most important bit is that, can I see it, goes under, that of when you hook them exiting the peg, that is so important for your winter fishing. But yeah, hopefully there are a few little bits for you to help you catch a few more.